either. Rocco had been a notorious playboy and an incorrigible gambler. He had married a woman young enough to be his daughter when he was in his 50s, had fathered one son, and had expired 10 years later after over-exerting himself in another woman's bed. Gaetano reckoned he had been paying for his father's sins almost from the hour of his birth. At the age of 29, and one of the world's leading bankers, he was tired of being continually forced to prove his worth and confine his projects to the narrow expectations of the board. He had made millions for the Leonetti Bank. He deserved to be CEO. Indeed, Rodolfo's angry ultimatum that very morning had enraged Gaetano. "You will never be the chief executive of this bank until you change your way of life and settle down into being a respectable family man," his grandfather had sworn angrily. "I will not support your leadership with the board, and no matter how brilliant you are, Gaetano, the board always listens to me. They remember too well how your father almost brought the bank down with his risky ventures." Yet what, realistically, did Gaetano's sex life have to do with his acumen and expertise as a banker? Since when were a wife and children the only measure of a man's judgment and maturity? Gaetano had not the slightest interest in getting married. In fact, he shuddered at the idea of being anchored to one woman for the rest of his life, while living in fear of a divorce that could deprive him of half of his financial portfolio. He was a very hard worker. He had earned his academic qualifications with honours in the most prestigious international institutions, and his achievements since then had been immense. Why wasn't that enough? In comparison, his father had been an academically slow and spoiled rich boy who, like Peter Pan, had refused to grow up. Such a comparison was grossly unfair. Tom dealt Gaetano a rueful appraisal. "You didn't get the old 'find an ordinary girl' spiel again, did you? An ordinary girl, not a party girl, one who takes pleasure in the simple things of life," Gaetano quoted verbatim because his grandfather's discourses always ran to the same conclusion. Marry, settle down, father children with a home-loving female, and the world would then miraculously become Gaetano's oyster, with little happy unicorns dancing on some misty horizon shaped by a rainbow. His lean bronzed features hardened with grim cynicism. He had seen just how well that fantasy had turned out for once married and now happily divorced friends. "Perhaps you could time travel back to the 1950s to find this ordinary girl," Tom quipped, wondering how the era of female liberation and career women had contrived to pass Rodolfo Leonetti by so completely that he still believed such women existed. "The best of it is, if I did produce an ordinary girl and announce that I was going to marry her, Rodolfo would be appalled." Gaetano breathed impatiently. "He's too much of a snob. Unfortunately, he's become so obsessed by his conviction that I need to marry that he's blocking my progression at the bank." His PA entered and extended 2 envelopes. "The termination of contract on the grounds of the confidentiality clause, which has been breached, and the notice to quit the accommodation that goes with the job," she specified. "The helicopter is waiting for you on the roof, sir." "What's going on?" Tom asked. "I'm flying down to Woodfield Hall to sack the housekeeper who handed over those photos to the press." "It was the housekeeper?" Tom prompted in surprise. "She was named in the article, not the brightest of women," Gaetano pointed out dryly. Poppy leapt off her bike, kicked the support into place and ran into the village shop to buy milk. As usual, she was running late, but she could not drink coffee without milk and didn't feel properly awake until she had had at least 2 cups. Her mane of fiery red gold curls bounced on her slim black-clad shoulders, and her green eyes sparkled. "Good morning, Francis," she said cheerfully to the rather sour-looking older woman behind the counter as she dug into her purse to pay. "I'm surprised you're so bright this morning," the shop owner remarked, in a tone laden with suggestive meaning. "Why wouldn't I be?" The older woman slapped a well-thumbed newspaper down on the counter and helpfully turned it round to enable Poppy.